Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. A little later, we're going to take a look at the Holmes trial that happened here recently. But first, let me see if I got this right. The EPA creates a spill. The EPA tests the water. The EPA says it's safe to drink again, so don't worry. I have a feeling if you replaced EPA with Halliburton or Exxon, people would feel a little differently about it. Let's go first over and say hello to Rick Sallinger from Channel 4. Good to see you.
Good to see you, John. Thank you for having me here.
And of course, from the Washington Times, Valerie Richardson.
Thank you, John, for having me on.
All right, let's start over here with Rick, because you went down and you saw it with your own two eyes. You went to the Gold King mine. You came back, pockets full of gold ore.
I wouldn't be here if I did.
This is not a working mine, is that right?
No, it hasn't been really for many, many years. It was discovered around 1887, and it was mined until the early 1920s, and then off and on different things happened to it. But it's one of really hundreds of abandoned mines now in the area above Silverton in the southwest corner of Colorado.
And without going into too much detail, give me what happened technically. If I understand it, water goes into the mine, it leaches out, but somehow there was a retaining wall that the EPA contractor broke through. Do I have that basically right?
I guess that might be a simplified version of it.
Well, everything has to be simplified for me. So.
This is the Gold King mine, which is one of several mines in that immediate area. And what happened is, several years ago, the EPA said to the owner, Todd Hennis, that we want to come in there and take care of the discharge, which is putting toxic materials into the concrete cement creek and the Animas River. And he said, oh, no, you don't. You've messed up facilities before in Leadville. I'm not letting you in. And they said, yes, we're coming in.
So the EPA wanted to come in. The owner said, no, you've messed things up before. I'm not letting you in.
That's the way he tells the story. And they said, well, okay, we'll fine you some $35,000 a day then. And he said, well, maybe I better let you in. And that set the stage, he claims, for what has happened here in these past few weeks.
You know, what I loved about this was how the EPA turned into you could have taken EPA and put in British Petroleum. That the head came out, and she's from New Jersey, so she's got this great accent that Coloradans just love. And she said, oh, this is a sad day. We're doing all the things we can. We're very deeply sorry for this, and we're going to fix it up real fast. I think she got a lot of a pass here. How big was the damage?
$3 million, 3 million gallons of wastewater, which, as everybody saw, was sort of anywhere between a mustard yellow and a bright orange, went all the way down the Animas River and into the San Juan River in New Mexico, and has since been detected at very low levels in Lake Powell in Utah. So this thing has gone to 3 states at this point. This is like a 100-mile route. It's pretty huge, and it's very visible too, which was the other problem, of course.
What tickled me was when the spokesman for the EPA said that the river is healing itself, that it's recovering on its own, that it's okay. Hick goes down there to have a drink of it. Between fracking fluid and contaminated water, this guy's got a drinking problem. But the idea of if the river heals itself, why the hell was the EPA there to begin with if the river takes care of itself?
Well, that's obviously one of the criticisms that are being directed at the EPA right now. And when they say the river's okay, what they mean is that they're testing the water in the Animas and in the San Juan. And now they're saying that as of today that both rivers, Animas and San Juan in New Mexico, are at their pre-event levels. In other words, before any of this happened, this is what the metallic levels were. But what they have also conceded is that along the banks and on the bottom of the river, there's still a lot of orange sediment there. Now, that wasn't there before. The water from the middle part of the river seems to be where it was, but they have said, if there's a huge storm, all of this orange sediment on the bottom is going to get jostled and come up to the top again, and that's going to be a problem.
This is a sizable problem in Colorado. We haven't seen this. Has the EPA accepted the fault for this?
Yes, the EPA, to its credit, almost immediately accepted responsibility for this, because it took over the responsibility for the cleanup of the discharge of this mine.
And what's going to happen next? Will they pay the cost? Does a guy at least get out of his $35,000 a day fine now that they've messed it up?
Well, he let them
Right.
in and he got out of that fine. And yes, the EPA and you and me, the taxpayers, are going to foot the bill for all of this. Hennis, the owner, maintains that this all could have been avoided, not just by keeping the EPA out, but if you go back a ways, they had a water cleansing treatment facility right there. And the water flowing out of these mines went through that treatment facility, but Hennis claims that the owners of the Sunnyside mine, which is adjacent to his mine, wanted this facility shut down because it was costing them $1 million a year. So what they did was build bulkheads which trapped the water to keep it from flowing out of the mine into the creek and into the river, and it built up within the mines. Hennis claims it seeped into the Gold King from the Sunnyside mine, and when the EPA knocked on the door, opening the portal to try to get in and investigate the discharge, that's when the millions of gallons came gushing out to everyone's surprise.
Who put in this bulkhead to
That
keep
was
it up?
EPA last year in the fall. They put in that bulkhead that's made out of dirt, and as we saw, timbers that were just crushed like toothpicks when this water came pouring out. It was coming out so strongly, we are told, that the water went vertically.
Wow. What gets me on this as well is how many different, I don't know how to use the term, jurisdictions are involved. So you've got the EPA and the feds, you've got the state regulators, you've got the folks down who own the mine, and you also have Native Americans who aren't drinking the water yet. Explain what that layout is.
Yes, when the spill went through New Mexico, it hit the Navajo Nation water supply, and the Navajo at this point are saying, even though La Plata County in Colorado has cleared it, and even though San Juan County in New Mexico has cleared the water for drinking, we're not going to drink this water. They're not opening their water intakes. They say we want our Navajo Nation EPA to clear this first, and in fact
What do you mean the Navajo Nation EPA? They have their own EPA?
They have their own EPA, yes.
The Navajo Nation has their own EPA?
The NNPA, EPA, yes. And in fact, the president of the Navajo Nation, Russell Begay, actually came to Cement Creek in Colorado last weekend and dipped a cup into the water there and pointed it to his little video camera there, and you can see that it looks like lemonade. And he said, I'm not drinking this, which was pretty much a jab at John Hickenlooper, who did drink the water.
But both of you have used the term Cement Creek. What Cement Creek? What is a Cement Creek? Is this from Beverly Hillbillies?
It's Cement Creek. It is the
Cement
Creek.
Pond.
The water comes out of the Gold King mine into a creek, which is high up in the San Juans there, which then flows into the Animas River.
So what is a cement creek?
It's just a name. It's just a name.
Oh, that's a name. It's not actually a cement creek.
No, it isn't, but it sure looks like it.
Yeah. Good Lord. All right. Talk to me about the feds. This is a time, of course, for good Washington, D.C. representatives to be incensed and do something.
Yes.
What does that look like?
Well, right now, Interior has announced they're going to be conducting a 60-day investigation. The EPA's own Inspector General is conducting an investigation, but obviously Congress is getting involved too. And what you have right now is Representative Scott Tipton, who represents that area, says that both House Natural Resources and House Energy and Commerce are going to investigate this, hold hearings. So we'll see. They haven't been scheduled yet, but we'll see what happens with that. And then on top of that, you have senators from Arizona and New Mexico calling for the Senate Indian Affairs Committee to investigate, because this affected both the Navajo Nation and, here in Colorado, the Southern Utes. And they want to make sure that they're taken care of as well in all this.
So this is just the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let me back up a little bit and say, does this open up a conversation about the regulatory authority of the EPA? The EPA is now on a march under Obama's orders, particularly when it comes to coal plants and that their ozone regulations, which would close down a lot of plants throughout the nation, and the regulatory power that has grown. Is this opening up a dialogue where the average person might go, wait a second, maybe the EPA isn't helping the E as much, maybe the regulation is starting to choke off business and causing all sorts of unforeseen problems?
The EPA has a command post set up there at the base of the mountain where the mine is located. The EPA is now in a damage control and cleanup mode, if you will. Beyond that, the discussion will have to take place over a period of months, if not years, as to whether the EPA has done more harm in this situation than good.
But who regulates the EPA? You know, when BP causes a spill, it's the BP spill. When they have a spill, somehow the media calls it the gold mine spill, not the EPA spill. You know, at least police officers have internal affairs. You know, there's some sort of mechanism. Is there some sort of mechanism here?
Well, as Valerie mentioned, the Office of the Inspector General for the EPA is the, in effect, Office of Internal Affairs for the EPA, and at the request of Congress, they are looking into exactly how the EPA caused this mess and whether it provided adequate notification to those downstream, and whether it's acting properly now in taking care of the cleanup.
All right, pardon me for being skeptical here, but I've seen these sort of things over time. And usually what happens, you know, if a company screws up, there are fines out the wazoo. They have to pay a price. BP paid a huge price, as well they should. When the government screws up, usually what happens is more money gets going into that department. There's this weird thing that happens when there's big forest fires. The National Forest folks say, we don't have the money, therefore we need more money, and it happens. Why do I have a feeling at the end of this will be a call for more resources for these issues instead of backing away and leaving these mines alone?
That could well be. We'll have to see what happens. Obviously, when Congress starts holding hearings, I'm sure there'll be some talk of that. But I was going to say another aspect that we haven't touched on is that the states are also getting involved. Cynthia Kaufman, Colorado's Attorney General, is in discussions with the Attorneys General for New Mexico and Utah, and they may all file some sort of a coordinated legal action against the EPA over this.
Oh, claiming what?
Well, I guess they would be claiming that perhaps the EPA acted negligently, recklessly, something like that. They might be looking for, some sort of a federal damage award to go to the states. And the EPA has been out there, asking people to fill out claim forms. A lot of the businesses that lost business during that time are, filling out claim forms saying that they need to be reimbursed by the EPA. So that's part of the damages as well.
John, you brought up the issue of more money being funneled into this, and that brings up the issue of Superfund, which of course is the fund that is used for major cleanups of an environmental nature around the country. And there has been talk over time of creating a Superfund site there above Silverton, but many of the people in that area don't want it because it's like a scarlet letter. If you say this is a Superfund area, that'll drive away the tourists and other people that want to go there for recreation or other activities.
Last thought on this. I hope the outcome, at the very least, is to show that these accidents do happen. Whether it happens because of Exxon, whether it happens because, I remember Coors had a spill in a creek of something a while ago. Accidents happen, and those accidents happen even with the EPA. And so I hope we all see that these man-made things happen. It's the reaction to it that counts, and what happens afterwards, I don't know if that'll be the case. Valerie, thank you. Rick, thank you, and thank you for going down there. Stay tuned.